I've replayed that New Year's Eve over and over, trying to figure out when my instincts stopped mattering. Vanessa and I were students at the University of Colorado, Boulder, heading to a fraternity party we'd been excited about all week. We pre-gamed in our apartment, taking shots while getting ready, laughing too loud, already half drunk before we even stepped outside. The fraternity house was exactly what you'd expect, packed shoulder to shoulder, music shaking the walls, drinks spilling everywhere. People were yelling over the bass, dancing on furniture, counting down the minutes to midnight like nothing bad could happen in a place that loud. Vanessa and I bounced from room to room, taking shots from strangers, losing track of how much we'd had because everyone else was doing the same. Somewhere in the chaos, two guys we didn't recognize approached us, both mid-20s, dressed like normal college students, confident enough to blend right in. One introduced himself as Mark, the other as Todd, smiling easily and talking close so we could hear them over the music. They offered to grab us drinks, and Vanessa accepted immediately, already drunk and laughing. I took the cup too, but something about the way they watched us made my stomach tighten. I pretended to sip without swallowing, keeping my eyes on them as I leaned in and told Vanessa something felt off. She rolled her eyes and told me I was being paranoid, that it was New Year's Eve and I needed to relax. I ignored my instincts and stayed. When Mark suggested we go back to his place to keep drinking, it didn't feel strange in the moment because people were already leaving for after parties. Vanessa was clearly into Todd, laughing at everything he said, leaning into him, and that made it feel safer than it should have. We took an Uber together while fireworks went off somewhere above the city. The apartment felt too quiet when we arrived, but within minutes my head started spinning and my body felt heavy. I looked at Vanessa and saw it hit her harder, her face pale and unfocused. She collapsed first, and I remember seeing Mark and Todd smile at each other before my legs gave out and everything went black. I woke up disoriented with a pounding head and a sick feeling in my stomach. When I tried to move, I realized I couldn't. Vanessa and I were handcuffed together, our wrists chained to the bed frame, stripped down to our bras and underwear. The room was silent, unfamiliar, and Mark and Todd were gone. Our phones and clothes were missing, and there were hours neither of us could remember. My body ached in ways my mind couldn't explain, and Vanessa wouldn't look at me when she whispered that she felt it too. We eventually managed to get out of the bed and stumbled into the hallway barefoot, shaking, holding on to each other because it felt like the only way not to fall apart. We knocked on the next door, desperate, barely dressed, not caring who answered. An older woman opened the door and immediately pulled us inside when she saw us. She wrapped us in blankets and listened as I tried to explain through shaking breaths, asking her if she knew Mark or Todd, if she knew who lived next door. I pointed toward the apartment and told her that was where we woke up. Her face changed as she told us there was no Mark living there. She said the apartment had been vacant for over a year. My friends begged me to throw a New Year's Eve party the moment they found out my parents wouldn't be home. They kept saying it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance, that everyone would show up, that it would be legendary. I didn't need much convincing. I invited my entire junior class, and with Jake and Ryan helping me, we spent days pulling together as much alcohol and drugs as we could find. By the time New Year's Eve arrived, my house already felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. The party exploded fast. Every room was packed, music shaking the walls, strangers spilling drinks onto the floor like it didn't matter. People were yelling, laughing, making out on the stairs, already counting down to midnight even though it was hours away. I remember standing in the middle of it all, watching my house fill up, thinking this was exactly what everyone meant when they talked about freedom. At some point, Jake, Ryan, and I went upstairs to my parents' bedroom to hit the bong and grab more stuff for the party. We were laughing, careless, barely paying attention to anything. Then a loud bang echoed from downstairs. At first, I thought something fell. Then yelling followed, deep voices shouting for everyone to get on the ground and shut up. My stomach dropped when someone screamed about phones and wallets. That's when I realized the front door had been kicked in. Chaos erupted below us. Furniture scraped across the floor. People cried and begged. One man argued back, refusing to listen. Then a single gunshot cracked through the house, so loud it felt like the sound punched straight through me. Everything went silent. None of us spoke. Jake, Ryan, and I scattered instantly, hiding wherever we could. I locked myself inside the closet, crouched behind hanging coats, forcing myself not to breathe too loud. Heavy footsteps climbed the stairs moments later, slow and deliberate. Doors were kicked open one by one as the men ransacked bedrooms, dumping drawers and flipping mattresses. When they entered my parents' room, I watched through a crack in the closet door. They dragged Jake and Ryan out from under the bed. Both of them begged, promising they would give them everything. I pressed my hands over my mouth as 2 gunshots rang out back to back. The room went silent again. Eventually, the men cleared the house and left through the back door. I stayed hidden for several minutes, afraid to move, afraid they were still there. When I finally stepped out, my legs almost gave out beneath me. Jake and Ryan were on the floor, blood spreading into the carpet. Downstairs, the house was empty. The party was gone like it had never existed. Cups were tipped over, lights still flashing, music still playing to no one. In the middle of the living room lay the man who had argued with them earlier, dead where he fell. In less than 15 minutes, 3 people died in my house. The new year began with me standing alone in the wreckage, knowing nothing would ever feel normal again. New Year's Eve was supposed to feel exciting, but instead I was alone in my room, scrolling through my phone and trying not to focus on how quiet everything felt. I was 18 and going to community college, and most of my friends had drifted away, leaving me with no plans and no one to spend the night with. That's why I opened Tinder. I matched with a guy named Jack almost immediately, and our conversation felt easy and natural in a way that made the day go by faster. He was funny, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in me. And when I mentioned I had no plans for New Year's Eve, he said he didn't either and suggested we meet up. There were no red flags, nothing that made me hesitate. And when he said his parents weren't home and I could come over, it felt spontaneous instead of dangerous. I told him I'd be there by 10 p.m. and got ready like it actually mattered, excited to finally have plans. Jack lived only 10 minutes away, but I decided to Uber since we planned on drinking. The Uber driver was friendly, and I excitedly told him all about my date while pre-gaming in the back seat, feeling warm and buzzed as we got closer. That feeling shifted the moment we pulled up to the house. Jack's place looked run down and dark, like no one had lived there in a long time, and even the Uber driver commented that it looked sketchy. I laughed it off, told him everything was fine, and got out anyway. Drunk, but still aware enough to feel uneasy. I texted Jack that I had arrived, and he told me to let myself in through the back. I hesitated briefly, but started walking around the house, telling myself I was overthinking it. As I rounded the corner, I glanced up and saw a masked man peering out of the upstairs window. The second he realized I saw him, he ducked down instantly, and every instinct in my body screamed at me to leave. I turned around and started walking away quickly, but before I got far, the back door flew open, and I heard shouting and footsteps behind me. I broke into a sprint, terrified and barely thinking straight. Headlights suddenly pulled up beside me, and the passenger door swung open. It was the same Uber driver, yelling for me to get in. I jumped into the car, and he sped off immediately, my heart racing as I tried to catch my breath. As we drove away, he told me he'd had a bad feeling and looked up the address after dropping me off. He said the house had been vacant for 2 years. My stomach dropped when I realized there was never a Jack waiting for me inside. I thanked him repeatedly and asked him to take me home. When I checked Tinder later that night, Jack's profile was completely gone.